Welcome to the Muscles and Mindset Revolution, the podcast for ambitious women who want to build strength, feel confident AF, and lose fat for good without counting calories or chasing quick fixes. I'm your host, Ann Jones. I'm a certified life coach, mentor, personal trainer, and mindset expert. After more than 15 years in the fitness industry, I can tell you this. The problem is almost never that you don't know what to do. It's how you respond to pressure. And that is exactly what we're talking about today. Happy January. It is the first Monday in January. And yet today's episode is not about goal setting. I know you love to set a goal, and it's not about habits, and it's definitely not about locking it in or going all in on January. But stay with me because this is an orientation episode. I want us to orient. Let's orient ourselves into this new year because January doesn't fail you in the way that people think it does. January doesn't fall apart. Resolutions don't not work because you're lazy. They don't fall apart because you lack discipline. They might, but it's not because you don't want it badly enough. January fails because the moment pressure shows up, you leave yourself quietly, automatically, without even realizing that you've done it. I did kind of here's why November isn't working for you. Here's why December isn't working for you. So we're kind of on a theme. So I feel like I'm going to tell you December versus January energy. So I have been sending a monthly recap email, and I didn't send it December 1st. November was a write-off. Things got really tough around here in November. I didn't send a November recap, but I sent my December recap, but I did it a little differently. In the summer, I was telling you all what I read, what I did, what I watched. And when I sent the December recap, I sent it less of a highlight reel, less of an itemized, here's what I did, and more of a like, December was a lot, and here's how I stayed with myself anyways version. And you liked it, or my readers liked it. And a bunch of my readers replied asking for the other one, the old one, the what did you do? What did you read? What did you watch? The context, the details. And this tells me a couple of things. You love, my reader, my audience loves a heart-centered reflection. And you, like me, are intellectual, highly logical. You still like a checklist, and you still like here's what we did. And so I wrote it and sent it out this morning. And what became really clear to me as I reflected on December twice is this. December was messy, as I'm sure it is for many women. It was also tender. It was imperfect. But the win for me is something that I'm really bringing into theme in 2026 is that I stayed in relationship with myself. And I noticed that January is where I tend to see women do the exact opposite. So first, let me share with you what December taught me without romanticizing it. You know, I love to romanticize life, but let's not romanticize. We don't need to romanticize the challenging part. December didn't look impressive. I wasn't optimizing anything. There weren't a bunch of sexy parties. I wasn't chasing a glow up. I wasn't trying to be on or impressive. I read a lot. I rested more. Like every day was kind of like a new start, to be honest. Both like my daughter and I are having big transition challenges or a lot of big feelings. So every day and every night was like a starting over. So I need to sleep. We need to regulate. We need to approach this again tomorrow. And I would say now we're finally like things are kind of working. We're in a rhythm. But because I am not new to this, I knew enough, didn't do it perfectly, but I knew enough to keep the basics close, even when everything else shifted. So the way that I'm bringing these two things together is like I wrote this December email that was reflecting on how tender and rough December felt. And then this morning I sent and wrote this, like, here's what I did email. And what I realized in that was I still did things, right? Like I still worked out. We still read books. You know, Sophie and I we're still reading The Chamber of Secrets. Like, here are the fiction books that I read. And I'll just share with you too. Like I read Everyone is Lying to You by Joe Piazza, which if you spend any time online or social media, I think you should read because it's so accurate in how influencers operate and influence and how it's so staged, right? So much of what we consume is so staged. And this is a little aside, but I just want to share this here. I've been having this thought since reading that book because I do know some influencers, like big influencers like that in real life. And some of them are honest and real. And some of them it is very staged. But I personally don't follow a lot of like aesthetic influencers unless I know them personally or I'm doing it just out of like, oh, this is really pretty to look at. Like probably the only like aesthetic influencer I follow is, I can't remember her name. She's really young. She has all these babies. She's married to this model and her voice is just doesn't feel like real life to me. but it's pretty to look at and it's fun to listen to. But my understanding is that a lot of you are following a lot of influencers who are demonstrating things that are aesthetic, perfect, and or staged. And if we are constantly consuming that as truth, like no wonder comparison is leaking in. So I just found that interesting because I realized, oh, I don't actually really follow or, buy into anything that's that influencery. That like, if you're not showing me reality, I'm pretty much out. And then things that I went back to, right? I went back to my nervous system staples, meditation, a couple of my favorite books, How to Meditate and When Things Fall Apart by Pima Chodron, and going to yoga consistently, not because I needed to be fixed, not because I needed to overhaul my life with yoga or by learning to meditate, but because I was listening. And that matters. And that is the thing, especially with my one-on-one coaching clients, like with whom I do life and mindset coaching, especially after we've been working together for a while. When something challenging comes up or stress comes up, it's common for them to be like, I've come so far. Like, why do I still feel this way? Why is this still happening? And I know because I've had that feeling before and I've said the same thing to my coach. And I know now, because I've been doing this work for so many years, that it is part of the process. Learning how to take care of and stay with yourself isn't a guaranteed, like you're never going to be stressed and you're never going to have hard feelings and you're never going to self-sabotage again. It's you have the tools, the resources, and you know how to come back to yourself faster. You know how to bounce back faster. You know how to see it coming. You know how to see it. Like it's more of an awareness that lets us have a more consistent peace. It is not a life is perfect from here on out. But that's what we really want, right? We want ease. We want consistency. We want to feel peaceful most of the time. And when we don't, we want to know how to come back to that feeling. So let's come back to what January does to women. And here's what I see every single year. I've worked in fitness since 2009. Like I'm familiar with January. And it shows up with pressure. This is what I feel. And actually, I just want to share this with you too. I always really struggle with like New Year's Eve, New Year's Day content because I'm so, to be honest, self-absorbed in my own year-end reflection and New Year preview. So I find it really hard to like be on at that time of year for my clients and for my readers. I really like to be off because that's what I need. But I feel like it shows up with so much pressure to do it right this time, pressure to make up for December, like get back on track, prove something, be disciplined, be consistent, be very impressive. And some of those things aren't bad, but when that pressure hits, something subtle happens. You stop listening to yourself and you start stepping into performing. That's what really is one of the issues I have with like challenges is it's like can be kind of performative. It's external accountability, which we all need, but are you listening or are you performing so that other people see you do it? And no shame either way. I just think it's a thing that happens. When you start performing, you got a lot of things to do. So you're rushing through meals, you're rushing through workouts, you are maybe overriding your hunger, you are pushing workouts instead of staying present in them, you are ignoring your fatigue and calling it mental toughness or discipline, and you're confusing intensity with commitment. And then when that inevitably collapses, you call it losing motivation. And then you say, I just don't have motivation. And that's not what happened. You didn't lose motivation. You probably still want it. You hopefully still know your why. You didn't lose motivation. You lost contact with yourself. You stopped listening. Here's the core truth. January or any month doesn't fall apart because you don't care enough. It falls apart because when pressure shows up, you abandon yourself instead of staying with yourself. Not intentionally, not dramatically, quietly. And most women don't even know they're doing it. They think, I just need to try harder. I just need a better plan. I need more discipline. But discipline without self-connection turns into self-betrayal. That's what I see. There's nothing wrong with loving discipline, but discipline without connection to self turns into self-betrayal. And self-betrayal always shows up as burnout, rebellion, self-sabotage, or collapse. Always, always, always. So here's why this pattern keeps repeating. It's a little uncomfortable. Most women don't fail because they don't know what to do. Most women who come to work with me actually know how to work out. They might even be doing it already. The nuts and bolts is not usually the problem. Sometimes they don't have a program. They don't know exactly what to do. But that's not what's really holding them back. They fail because the second things get uncomfortable, they override themselves instead of coming back to and relating to themselves. They treat January like something to conquer instead of something to move with, move through. And your nervous system does not respond to force, especially in women. Your nervous system responds to consistency, safety, and trust. And those things feel scary. Those things feel scary. And that is why the podcast episode that resonated most in December was the one where I talked about doing all the right things, still not working when your nervous system is fried. Because effort without regulation doesn't compound, it backfires. So here's what to listen for in yourself this month. If you are already feeling that familiar tightening, like January is something that you have to get through and survive or prove yourself in or get through without messing up, that's not a discipline problem. That's a self-connection problem. So this month is not asking you to be a better person. It's asking you to stay with yourself, or at least that's what I'm asking of you. It's asking of you to notice when you rush instead of regulate, when you override instead of just adjust, when you push instead of pause or refrain, when you disappear under pressure and call it procrastination. That pattern is the work, not the meal plan, not the workout split, not the 30-day challenge. January doesn't need more intensity from you. It needs steadiness. Coach Taylor inside Muscles and Mindset always likes to ask for a monthly word from our clients. Her word this month was steady, which I think is so funny because I've been using that word a lot. January really does need steadiness. It needs fewer promises and more follow through with yourself. It needs a solid 4-legged table, not a 3-legged table, like a foundation. It needs you to stop leaving your body the second things feel hard or uncomfortable, because consistency is not built by white knuckling. It is built by staying in relationship with yourself when it would be easier to disconnect from yourself. And that is the muscle that most women have never trained. And that is exactly what actually changes everything. So here's your invitation. If this episode feels uncomfortably accurate, stay close this month. I have lots coming for you because you don't need another plan and you don't need to fix yourself. And disappearing under pressure is just the pattern worth noticing. I just want you to notice it. And once you stop abandoning yourself, January will stop falling apart. It will stop feeling like a failure. I promise you. That's all I have for you today. That is a wrap for today's episode of the Muscles and Mindset Revolution podcast. If this resonated, please make sure you hit subscribe so that new episodes land right in front of you, because let's be honest, even the best ones are easy to forget to come back to, right? And if you want to support the show, leaving a 5-star review means more than you know. It really helps this message to reach the women who need it most. You can always come hang out with me on Instagram or Substack at Ann Jones Fit. Instagram is where I'm the most active and where this conversation continues in real time. Thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing to stay with yourself. I'm so proud of you, and I'll see you next week.